So, hey everybody, it's Ed
And Krista.
from the krista&ed show. We did that reversed, actually. We are so excited. We have Renato Raposo, who's from Braga, Portugal, who we wanted to introduce everybody to. He's got this really interesting story how he was working and then went into real estate and did a complete pivot, and it dug into humanistic coaching. And so today, Renato, you do business coaching, marketing strategy, and humanistic coaching. And, I think you had mentioned, before the interview that you're from a pretty wealthy family and you don't really need to necessarily work, but, you felt this compelling need to help people and help grow businesses and grow, entrepreneurs. So it was like literally before this, I asked a couple questions. It was like dropping gold. And I'm like, wait, no, we've got to record this. So thank you so much. And we know there's time zone difference, so we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. So I'll let you lead in there from there.
Okay, so guys, I have to thank you again for this opportunity. For me, it's like an amazing, for me, it's really an opportunity because since ever, I have never felt I had a home. So I have this dream about meeting people all over the world. And since I went to enter this new course, which we are in, I actually had a bit of that within the last 5 days. So I'm having the most amazing time for myself. Getting back to the story, so yes, I was born. My father, when he was a kid, he reached a certain age, and he said, like, I'm never gonna be one of these people who actually needs money. I'm gonna work so hard that I'm going to have all the money I need, that I'm going to forget about it. That's what he did. So we grew up living on top of the factory. This factory still exists today, and he employs nearly like 120 people, and he still lives on the top of the factory. So he just climbs the stairs and is at home. This is pretty sick, right? So my father is a workaholic, and I grew up in this environment, which gave me so much. But actually, being rich, it gave me this, this knowledge that some people believe that they have to have money to actually have access to success or love or whatever it is that they believe money is the cause. And at least in my experience, my story is the exact opposite. I'm always telling, listen, guys, I've had all the money and I went through the same struggles. So, my father, he used to beat my mom. I was the kid who stood in the middle. At least I tried. I was only 8 years old, but I couldn't do more. So this developed in me those times where I had to stay in the middle, or at least I tried to make it stop. I couldn't. So it made me feel insignificant. So it made me feel unimportant. And this helped me build myself as a human being. So later, they got a divorce. I was 11. We kept, we were basically in the middle of our parents' fights. And for us, it was so hard. I have lived my entire life in a city. It's not the same where I live now, but that city is called Covilhã. And I've never felt I belong there. Even if I was born there, I never felt home over there. So when I was 17, I went to live with my dad for last year of high school. And it was like the most hardcore experience I can remember for me with my father. And I was like, okay, someday we're going to kill each other. So this has to stop. And I called my mom, can I go and spend some time with you? And she was okay. Then I didn't know what I was doing in my life. Like I literally remember going to high school just with my backpack, but with nothing inside because I didn't want the teachers to feel bad, So I didn't do anything. I had no interest. I actually went into depression. I took the initiative to find psychologists to help me because I've always had this hope, this belief that life has to be more than this. Like there are people who live in cities where they live like terrorism, like there are people who went through rape, and I could only think about like life has to be more than this. And I don't even consider my experience to be the worst out there. So I'm in depression. I didn't believe in myself. I had this huge negative talk, and I tried every ways. I could. So I ended up going to college and studied business management, because for me it was like, well, my father has the companies, I don't really want any of that. But it was a logical choice for me. There was absolutely no emotion on it. So I went there. I had a great time. I've met actually my best friends of today. It was in that college. I worked at night and started to work. I studied at night and I worked during the day. And that's what I thought. Like, there's this idea that today I do understand where this came from, which was, I never want to be somebody who is only who he is because of the father having money, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the need to go work during the day. I could study at night because it was a private school. It works at night. I didn't have the need, but I've always had this aspiration of, I don't want to rely on anyone. And my father, like, he's like, son, I'm here for you. And I keep saying, like, just stay there. Just let me go. Let me build my little castle. Let me build my empire, my thing, my legacy, whatever. So at the middle of college, there was a company hiring, and 5 students from our class went to to the interviews, and I was the one who was selected. um, I worked there for 2.5 years, and I felt so miserable in that job. I asked the guys, listen, I asked the company when I was interviewed, like, the thing that I want is not money. So never ask me if I need money. Just ask me, what do I need? And what I needed was, I want to learn. I want to become a better professional and a better person. But at that time, becoming a better person was not such a big deal for me. Yeah, it was kind of, and I was unaware of that. So it was when, after 2.5 years, I was feeling a lot of stress. My hair started to fall down, and one day I went to the doctor, and I got really shocked because he told me, "Do you have a stressful life?" And for the first time, I never thought a 20-year-old kid could actually feel stressed or tired about the work. I was like, I'm just a kid. I can handle this.
Yeah.
It's, but it turns out you can't. It doesn't work like that. Whether you're older or younger, it's stress affects us in any age. So I decided to quit my job. I started to look for opportunities, and there was one lady who posted a job, app application for a real estate agency. And I was like, okay, here's an opportunity. Next day I called the manager, listen, I'm going to quit. Like, within a month, I was working as a real estate agency agent without knowing anything. Like, I didn't know really anything, because when you work, the company I worked for before was a food supply company. So I didn't do anything as a salesperson. All I had to do was grab the car, visit the clients, and ask them, what do you need for tomorrow? But literally, they didn't like me when I told them this, because it looks like there's no value in the salesperson there. It has, but it's just to a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, they're not doing any valuable sales there. It's just, do you need chicken? Yes. Can I send you 5 kilos tomorrow? Yes. Maybe 6. Okay, that's it. So
Order
this,
taking, right? You're
yeah,
order taking.
Yeah.
yeah, basically. And no one there liked when I started calling out my own job as an order taker. So I went to the real estate agency, and for me, it was a new chapter, learning to do cold calls, being my own time manager, which I never had before. I either went to school or job, which both of them forced me to be there at some point, at some time, and during some time. So for the first time, I experienced what it is to be like, you don't have anyone calling you to get out of bed. And I started to, that laziness basically took over myself. I was like, I was not doing anything. I was getting good results because I can learn stuff really fast.
Yeah.
So whenever I had a listing a meeting with a client, like, almost like my close rates would be like, in every 10 meetings I would do, I would close like 7 for listings, because I was really committed. When I'm learning something and I'm interested, like, you only have to speak once. I get it, and it's recorded. So there was one day I changed the agency in the mid times, but one day I asked myself, I remember where I was. I was near the city hall. I was making some time to meet a client, and I was in the car turning around. There's this thought in my mind, like, if you sell every single house on the planet, would that make you happier? And the answer was no. I had one of these realization moments, when we kind of, everything drops down. We kind of lose the blood in our brains, and we feel betrayed by ourselves.
Yeah.
So next I called the agency. Listen, I'm gonna quit. I'm not doing anything here. Like, it doesn't make sense. Bye, guys. Which at that time I was the guy getting all the maximum listings per month. So it was kind of it was a surprise for everyone. They were like, well, what do we do? What happened? Like, nothing happened, guys. This is just not for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to invest in coaching. I decided to do a humanistic coaching course, which was in Germany, not in Portugal. But actually, they give the course in English, so for me it was easy. And I started to dig deeper on this humanistic side of things. Before I went to Germany, I did this small course at a weekend, and we learned to kind of try to guess what kind of person we have in front of us. Is it but it was according to astrology. So it was like, is it more of a is it more of is it called a Virgo? Is it more a Cancer? And for me, I was learning that and trying to implement this on a daily basis. But the fact is, we're all human beings. We all have our mental side. We all have our emotional side, and we are all spiritual beings. Like, that's we cannot run away from this. It's not, I cannot put a label. This one is a Virgo. This one is a whatever.
Well,
so
what
I
do you
felt
think
so.
I am?
I'm not thinking that way anymore. So it's like,
Never mind.
for me, for me, you're a human being who obviously has its own struggles, aspirations, goals. Everything is inside this person.
Yeah.
And this helped me because I was not getting, for my coaching clients at that time, I was not getting the best results because I was not connecting on a human level. I was connecting on a judgment level. So I had to judge, if you're speaking too much, you might be twins.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you said one thing at first and another thing at the end, you might be twins again. You have two faces. Like, it's not like that. Today I can say for sure, when we connect on a human level, it's not like that. So I went to Germany and I was introduced to the humanistic methodology. And for me, it was like, I can't believe I was true. Thank God I left my hometowns. Thank God I quit my jobs. Thank God I got here. Now I get to do the real stuff. And that's pretty much how I got into coaching. I came back from Germany, and they didn't give us that. There was one thing I regret. Not regret. It's basically one thing I lacked was, how do I become a coach? Like, this is my passion. I love to guide people through their own mind map, not my aspirations or my judgment. How do I get clients? Like, if you're a psychologist, how do you sell to people? Oh, listen, I'm a psychologist. You need my help because you're not going too well. Like, it's hard to make these sales when you have such you have to connect with the other human being in such a deep level. How do you start in the beginning to sell them, right? What do we tell them? How do I do this? And that's how I got into studying marketing, like the advanced techniques. How do we get the people to come to us for our passion instead of me having to preach, like a religion kind of thing.
I want to say your name first of all, because I didn't get to roll my R yet.
Okay.
So Renato.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. I just have I have so many things going off in my head, so I want to get this out. First of all, I just want to thank you for, being on the podcast. But you mentioned earlier that, you never felt that like sense of home. I get that. I come from a split family as well. And I still, it's funny, as an adult, as a mom, I still have a hard time thinking where I want to plant my roots in a way, because I don't really know where to call home. My dad lives on one side of Canada, my mom lives on the other. So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
I love, love, love that you mentioned that the community of, you know, the group that we're in together now feels like home. Because one of the things that I have found in the last 5 years, you know, on my entrepreneurship journey is exactly that community of other entrepreneurs who are like-minded. I think it's so important for entrepreneurs, especially, like, even if you're not an entrepreneur, you have that mind that you find that group, you find your tribe. Because I worked in the corporate world for 15 years, and although I had a good job, you know, there always was that same emptiness for me. There was something else I was supposed to be doing, I was supposed to be chasing. Now that I'm learning more about myself, personal development, all that stuff, I'm realizing it's just because I think different. It's not because they're right or I'm right. It's just I'm different. I think differently. I'm wired differently. I'm connected. I am spiritual, and you know, everyone has their own beliefs, but like, to me, it's like, I truly believe I have a moral obligation to like help people on a different level. And it's interesting. Sorry, I'm not done. It's interesting. Sorry, I'm feisty too. So when you talked about, you know, this whole journey has kind of led you into marketing too, you know, it's similar for me. Like, I remember being young thinking, this is what I want to do, but I didn't know what it was called. You know, now that I'm doing it, I'm like, this is exactly it. Because the way I view marketing and stuff too is kind of the same with you, right? It's like same with sales, marketing and sales. It's problem solving, right? It's understanding what the problems are, what the needs are, and fixing that. And the way you described it is, you know, connecting on the human level. Is perfect. You know, if you take away looking at everything as a transaction or a knowledge base, it changes
closing.
Right. You know? And then I also want to mention, like, I love that you talked about the fact that, you know, your family is wealthy as well. Because I know there's a lot of stigmatisms on that. So I can appreciate you also having that drive to be like, well, I want to, you know, carve my own path and stuff. And I love that you have a passion to be like, no, like, I want to follow this, and I want people to understand that just because you maybe have money or your family, it doesn't create your happiness. I mean, a lot of people, you know, I've done a lot of studies and stuff on this, but what I've realized through my journey, a lot of people, like, you know, Tony Robbins, even Dean, you know, all those successful people, there's more to it. Like, if you reach a financial status, there's always more. Then what? And that's where you start to see entrepreneurs start to do things that change the world. They have all this money and they're giving back. They're creating organizations, you know.
It's like going to, and I mean, we've traveled where you go to certain countries and they're in abject poverty, but yet they're happy. You know, like we were in Cuba a couple of years ago, and the people were so warm and happy and friendly, and they didn't really have a lot. Like, in fact, heat or air conditioning, or, you know, it's like cold, we all pile into a bed and sleep together. Like, that's so matter of fact, but yet you're happy. Or I've heard people talk about, or going to Southeast Asia and you meet people that have really no money, but they're so happy. And then yet you come to a Western country and a lot of people are wealthy, but they're very unhappy, right? But I want to talk about one thing that you said that was really, really interesting. Is that people do not normally do. And I don't know how old you are, and this has been a couple of years, but as a young man, to step back and do an audit at a critical point in life and say, if I sold every house in the country or in the planet, would I be happy? And then really digging out, and making that pivot is inspirational, because most people don't do that. They would stay you know, in the grind of doing what they're doing, especially if they're having a level of success where they're closing 70% of the listings, which is a big part in real estate, is closing listings, right? So for you to kind of step back and go, wait, this is not making me happy. You're like light years ahead of most people. So I just had to say that. So.
Yeah, that's what happened. Was it's like there are like people who work they don't work much and they work badly. There are people who work very much, but they still work badly. There's people who work really well, but they don't work very much. That's where I was. Like literally, I was not doing much work, and it already looked like I was doing a lot of that. That's why I felt this disconnection. So if I'm having so much success, I'm doing so little. Why don't I feel fulfilled? Like what's
Mhm.
missing here, right? Because we all want to. There's this idea, this ideological dream that all I want to be is at the beach and look at my phone and see the dollars or the euros coming in, right? That's the idea we've been planted since we were kids.
Mhm.
I wish I could win the lottery. Why?
But then,
Right?
yeah.
We never picture our life with that happening, with
Yeah.
winning the lottery. Can you imagine what you had to go through? Sometimes it's not what we really want, right? And today it was for me was really important to get to that point. There was one commitment I had since I can remember, which was every time I'm not well in a place, I have to do something. So I cannot stay there until I get comfortable in a way that I lose all my power and then I can't do anything because I've lost all my energy. That's how I see people who do their jobs, but they don't have a passion for it.
Yeah.
So I grew up and I had many friends. You know, I had friends going, becoming doctors who wanted to become lawyers, and I had friends who became lawyers who wanted to become doctors. So what's going to happen in the future? You will become client of these two, but they're not passionate about what they're doing.
Mm.
They just kind of know it how to do their jobs, but they don't deliver like 300%.
Yeah.
They just do the minimum to get the job done. And that's not how somebody who's living his passion does.
Yeah.
Like, for example, for me, I'm as you know, we're on the KBB course, and I'm trying this. I'm creating this live experience to drive people. Like, I want people to find their passion and then to have the tools and the knowledge to start something right away.
Yeah.
And I'm creating this 2-day live event, and it's basically for people who already feel 3 pain points. Like they don't have much of an impact in the world or in their workplace, but some of my clients have a great impact in their workplace, but they're not valued for their work. This is the most common one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
After that, they want to make money doing what they love, and especially they want to be certain of what is their passion. Now, I want to share this here, which is most people don't only have one passion. We are multi-passionate, beings.
Yeah.
We are not mono-focused. Like we like different stuff. And when we get to that part of discovering different things that can provide us with such an emotional charge, if you combine them, for example, let me share with you my 3 biggest passions. I love to help people build their business. Like for me, it's like they are they are complicating everything, and I'm like, no, this is easy. Relax, relax. And then comes marketing and sales, and they're like, I hate to sell. And then I somehow tell them, look, why don't we create a system where you don't have to be in the situation where you have to sell? Would that be okay for you? Oh, that's great. So this is my second passion. The third passion is personal development. Like the understanding of the human being actually helps me become a better salesperson if I ever come to that again.
Yeah.
You know, because I remember Dean used an example at some point in the course. He used the car dealer salesman kind of example. And I remember I was doing that in the listings. I was like, listen, I'm not going to fool you. I'm going to get a commission for this job, but at least I'm going to deliver to you my best. Now, let's find out what makes sense for you. Is that okay? And I remember that since before, I already tried to not be the hardcore salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
And always try to find this connection where we're both on the same level, and I'm not trying to force you to go any path. So I could combine these 3 areas, and for me it's like now I'm starting to live it, and I can say I had the most difficult life. I also have this feeling that maybe we don't have to go through the most difficult times to add real value to the world. It's not only the Tony Robbins who had problems with their parents. It's not people who were raped. It's not people who went through terrorism. It's also for the one who believes he's only average and common and he doesn't have anything special because he's not trained to look for those things.
Yeah.
So it looks like he doesn't have, but he has.
Absolutely.
It's funny we're talking about this because I was thinking of a friend of mine who's quite wealthy in a wealthy family. And anytime you talk to him, it's like he's painfully bored. Do you know? Like he's painfully bored. He lives his life for the holidays that he goes on with his friends or family or weekends away, because he's just kind of like a cog in the wheel in a machine that is making money. Do you know? Yeah. And so I think in some ways he has a way harder life than a lot of other people, because he hasn't, that in a way that living that kind of life takes away your aspirations, or it can.
Well, it's different. It's different for everybody, but you also don't know what you don't know, right? Like a part of me wishes that I plugged into personal development 20 years ago.
You know what? As you say that,
because for me, it's a drug. It's my drug. Yeah. It's my high. What ignites me. Yeah. Even talking with you, I'm feeling that burn because it's like, somebody who understands it gets it. It's
And I can relate to what you're saying too around sales. Like I've been involved in business to business selling for many years, and I never, in a way, thought of myself as a salesperson. I always thought of myself as, okay, I'm going to meet somebody and we have this product or whatever, and I am going to give them so much of the features and benefits and the value that they just are going to buy, if that makes sense. That's the way my brain worked. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to do a tap dance and sell you something. It was, hey, did you know we have this, and this is this solution, and it does this and this and this. You know what I mean?
But I would say, you've also been very successful and good at it because of your years of experience, but also like he's very good at building relationships, and being sincere. And that's the thing. There's no secret sauce either. People, if you start treating people like people,
human beings,
then a lot of times that's all it takes, right? Because we can all see through it,
Definitely. The more authentic we can be. For example, let me give you a funny example. One day I was heading to the hairdresser. The moment I put my feet inside, it was a random day. Like I remember I was looking at me and I had this thought in my mind saying, so you're always talking about do your passion and be yourself, and what are you doing to show that? And I'm like, boom. I remember since I was a kid, I wanted to have my hair blue. So I went in, I called the lady, that's blue. Maybe you can't see it, but
yeah. Now that you said it.
I saw you had streaks. Yeah. And then when you said you were losing your hair a couple years ago, I'm like, that's just not possible.
That's blue. So I went in, I called the lady, listen, do you know how to put this hair blue? Blue, are you sure? And there's like, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure it's blue. Like, I know why I'm asking this. Please, I have not been threatened if I don't paint my hair blue. This is not a bet. Like, trust me. Can you do it? Yes. So I was going to the part where you take away the color of your hair, like, and the hair gets all gray or yellow. Yeah. And I was doing a Facebook Live. But they did not see the first Facebook Live I did. It showed, like, a yellow hair. Yeah. So it looked like a lot silly. For me, like my friends were calling me nonstop. 50 people call me around that during that time, which was about 2 hours. What are you doing, man? Are you crazy? You look like this and that and that. And I'm like, you'll see, just wait. And then it started to come, blue. And then I went to wash my hair and it was all blue. And I'm like, yes, that's me. That's who I've always been,
Right.
This is blue. This is my thing, even though my language is all about fire and whatever. And for me, it's like my color is blue. It's the the calmness and the peace I'm looking for is blue. That's my.
Nice.
I love it.
We love it.
And I'd like you to send me a picture of what it was like when it was
Yes.
blonde.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he
I
didn't
have the video.
Okay, I gotta watch it then. You could be like our long lost brother. You were blonde.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but in me, so I was only getting my hair blue on the top, so it would get black in here and blue in the middle. Can you imagine when it was like yellow? It was a really strong stripes in here in black, but then it was all yellow. It's so silly, and everyone went to panic. But that is, one thing I allowed myself. It's this also. I also believe this has to do with we allowing ourselves to be authentic and to be more of who we've always been. I guess when I tapped into that thought, like I always wanted to have my hair blue. Why don't I? It's not stopping me. Like, oh no, I don't. You see, I didn't even think about what others are going to think about me. It's like I am a blue-haired kind of person. That's who I am. It's my identity. I don't have to ask anyone.
That's
right.
Me. That's right.
That's it.
So,
and
no, go ahead.
Go on. Well, I was going to share an experience, but I want to know what you were asking now.
No, go ahead. You share your experience, and then I'll ask you mine.
Okay, so this is about. So I'm all about finding passion, and that's maybe somebody who listens to your podcast right now might be. Well, you tapped into coaching, you started to invest in it. But did you have a moment where you had this strong connection? You said, "This is it." Mm-hmm. So let me tell you, I went on it was an international kind of experience. It happened in Portugal, but it was with lots of people all over the world, like from Finland, Switzerland, Germany. There were people from different places. So the course was in English, not in Portuguese. And we started the course. There was one moment that we were in groups, and every group had to do a presentation for 20 minutes. So every single person in the group, they had to add something. They had to participate. We couldn't be left out. And the only thing I asked was, guys, the only thing I need is for you to give me some time just to speak. All my requests, that all I need is you to give me some time to speak. Mm-hmm. Can you do that? That's all I asked. Like, I didn't care if you're going to talk this or that or that. And I've had this movie going through my mind for so long that finally I would have the chance to. I decide, like, this is the time. I'm gonna put it all out. It's coming. I just committed to that feeling, like I'm going to leave this movie. So I grabbed the microphone. These guys, they put the music I chose. It was that specific music. Since I heard the music, this movie started to happen in my mind. But I never said it out loud. So at some point, I got the microphone. I asked everyone to close their eyes. Just follow my voice. And it was a story about you happen to realize that you are in this tunnel to the arena, and you don't have anything. You don't have weapons, you don't have shields, and there's like a huge fight waiting for you out there. You don't have anything. You sense your body completely shaking, and you're afraid. Then it was this story. At some point, my voice level started to rise. So at some point, I was screaming, and suddenly they would see like a blue light on their right shoulder. There was a hand there, and there was a hand of all of the people in the world who care about them, who are there unconditionally for them. And they would feel like, looking at them, there were so many people who actually love us, and they are there for us. And the character, which was each one of us, would start like smiling at them, and they would say, "It's going to be okay. Just give your best." And suddenly he looks forward, and now he has a shield, and now he has an armor, and now he has a sword. He can do it. Like, we've always had everything we needed. We just, sometimes we forget we have it. Yeah. And then he was like, the story goes on, he goes out the arena, and then it's whatever comes to my mind. So I've done this, I've inserted this moment. But here's what happened. As I was speaking, as I was going through, I was not seeing anyone. I was literally, my eyes were open, but I was not seeing people who were in that room. I was literally living the movie, and I could see like tears coming off of so many faces. I'm like, me, oh shit, I'm causing more harm than help. I started to freak out at some point, but I went to the end, and suddenly the music stops, and I stopped speaking right there, and I said, sorry guys. And suddenly I realized that my body was, I could not control the shaking in my body. I was like, what the hell have I done?
Mhm.
And suddenly there's like 20 people who come to me, and they make a line, they want to hug me and tell me how much they love me and how much that was impactful. And I stood like shaking for about an hour. Like I was not controlling that. For me it was like a new experience, something that I have never gone through that. And it was that moment that I thought like, nah, I can't just ignore this.
Yeah.
I know this was like the ultra yang kind of style, the like let's go to war, but still, most of my time I'm in the inside. But I also have this other side of me, like this fighting side, this warrior kind of side, and this can also be helpful. And I've been running away from that since ever because I saw my father beating my mother. So that's how I processed. Every time people ask me to fight, he was like, no, I'm not the ones who fight.
Mhm.
But actually, at some point, we will have to fight.
Yeah.
At some point, if we don't do it, you lose the battle. You might lose even the war. And for me, that was great. That was like, yeah, that's such a great experience. But guess what? 2 months after, there's one lady who was there. She was one of the oldest people there. She was around 50 or 60. I don't know for sure. She sent me an email saying, Renato, let me thank you for all that speech. I've been remembering it so many times in my life. And now I have to go through a surgery, and it's a risky one. I don't know if I'm coming out, but I just want to thank you for giving me that moment, those 3 or 4 minutes you gave me. And I said, well, I'm super happy that you feel that way. Then a week later, she did the surgery, everything went fine. She sent me an email, and she was saying, uh, just want to tell you that when I was going to the hall, like laying down on the bed to go to the surgery room, all I could think was I was entering the arena. And for me, I could revive the same moment, and I could remember your words, the strength and the power you gave us. So instead of going with fear, I went there with peace.
Mhm.
And for me, like, this for me is really powerful. It's been one of the most transformational experiences I have given to somebody. And this was the moment, like a combination of little moments that I was like, I cannot do a disservice to the world by not doing this.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what?
Absolutely.
That is such a beautiful story. We had something similar that happened, and that just completely took us on another path.
Mhm.
So I mean, we don't really know each other that well because we're just officially meeting virtually online. But
Yeah.
We're officially friends.
We're
yeah,
officially friends.
so with a name like that, how can you not be friends? No.
Yes.
So I understand that, and I think that's so beautiful. And what's really awesome is I really believe that everybody, we're all on a path and a journey, and you're
Mhm.
doing what you're supposed to be doing at the time you're doing it, because everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's amazing is when you are tapped on the shoulder by the universe or God or whatever you want to believe in,
Yeah.
that you hear that calling and you
Yeah.
respond to it.
Yeah.
Because it's always there. I just got goosebumps saying that, actually.
Mhm.
It's always there, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you did. You responded to that. And I know that from our experience or whatever. Like for me, it's like I can't. My everything shifted in my head where it's like there's a bigger purpose, and what I'm
Mhm.
gonna do is I'm gonna trust in the universe, kind of like what you just said. I could feel all of that,
Yeah.
like the hand and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a plan. It's not all in my control, but I'm going to
Mhm.
trust that, the path I'm on is the right one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it does go back to what you talked about, like back to humanity. And it doesn't matter what color you are, how much
Yeah.
money you have, how much you don't, where you live, what you drive, it doesn't matter. that's one thing that we all have in common.
Yeah.
And if we can connect on that level, then good things happen, you know?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I want to ask you here as well, real quick. What would you say your superpower is?
You know, I had to find a name to what I do, and the closest name I could say is I am a fire catalyst. I believe that I have so much of fire inside me that I have to charge, you know, people whenever I meet them, and I'm more than happy because I know that my source of fire is never going to end, and some people that sometimes they struggle with that. They let the fire go to the minimum, and then they don't feel it. But you know, yeah, I would say my superpower is to ignite the fire within everyone.
I love it. Ah,
Yes.
I love that.
Gave me some fire today.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm
You
so
need
happy.
fire,
I
don't
do.
Do you have a question for us that you'd like to ask us before we wrap up?
Yes, the question is, what is the change in the world you expect or you would like to make? What's the pain you want to take away from the world, from your point of view, from what you do?
Well, I guess this kind of leads into, you know, our story of why we pivoted. So, real quick, like my background, after I left the corporate world, I started an online women's clothing boutique. And the reason I did that is because I decided to stay home with my kids. But I was also an independent woman, right? I always had that little fire in me too, where I'm like, what am I going to do? Da, da, da. So, and I'm resourceful. I'm a problem solver.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically built my business with my cell phone and Facebook to start, with kids all over. And, you know, now that I look back, it's just craziness, right? But throughout that journey, it's interesting because I always had this need to want to give back as well, right? I wasn't making millions and millions of dollars, but I still always, there's that need that you're like, oh, I want to touch people.
Mm-hmm.
So with my boutique, I was like, how can I give back? Like I wanted to give to different charities and stuff. And when I started going down that route, what I found was I just felt like another number, right? Like it was like, okay, fill out this application. And then I was like, well, are they even going to get
Donate
the money? Like, how does this work, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to find a cause where I can actually meet the people face to face who I'm impacting. And it's nothing huge. Like I'm not giving them away $1 million, but I just want to have some type of impact. So what I came up with was setting up a, you know, shopping spree for mothers of the house of an organization called the Ronald McDonald House. So I don't know if you're familiar with them, but basically it's an organization where when your kids are very sick, a lot of times, you know, terminal, it's a house where it's nonprofit and you can go and stay there while your children are getting their care in the hospital. So I thought, you know what, like, as a mom, I understand, like we always put ourselves last. And I can't imagine when your kid's sick, you're not thinking, you're probably not even showering. But I understand as a woman, and probably men too, you know, a new piece of clothing could be just that makes you feel good for the day, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to go there and do a shopping spree. And, you know, my husband got involved. We had some friends come, the kids came, and I donated, I set up shop. And I'm like, hey, you guys, like on your time, you can come and pick out an outfit, whatever.
Retail therapy.
So the second year that we did it, I was selling these necklaces in my boutique, and they had a saying on it, and it said, she believed she could, so she did. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give these necklaces away on top of the shopping spree. I want every mom or grandma in the house to have one of these, because I know that saying means something different to everybody. It doesn't just mean, you know, sad time or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I gave them all to the women of the house, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And, you know, I just felt like I could feel like, I was like, oh, like, you know, they were just so thankful. And a lot of them literally were like, you know what? I went for an appointment, an emergency. 2 hours later, I'm on a plane being flown here. They didn't even have clothes with them. You know, it's like my child is in emergency
I thought my
surgery,
child had the flu,
but he has
and
a tumor,
now I'm 5 hours later. This child is in critical condition, and we don't have money for a hotel. We don't have a place to stay. We don't really have resources.
So yeah. So it was actually really eye-opening, first of all, to go in and see and be thankful there's organizations like that. But I just felt like, okay, I was giving back and I felt good about it.
Yeah.
But what happened after that was kind of similar in a way to you. It was like a couple months later, I got an email, and it was from a woman, and she said, hey, Krista, like, I don't know if you remember me, but I was at the Ronald McDonald House, and you had given me this necklace. And she's like, I just wanted to thank you for that. And she actually attached a video. I didn't even press the video yet, because immediately I knew, like, for some reason it was like I knew who it was, you know. And I'm like, Ed, come here, you have to see this. He's like, okay. I pushed the button, and she proceeded to say, you know, like, thank you for the necklace. 4 days after you gave me that necklace, my daughter passed away. I still get teary-eyed talking about it. And she said, I need to thank you because you don't understand how much you've impacted me. Yeah. She said, that necklace is what got me through the darkest days of my life, right? This was not a gold-plated necklace. Like, this was not, you know, it was a saying that was meant to inspire. I had no idea that I was going to inspire on that level, you know? Yeah. So when that happened, and she's like, I have to be a mom to my kids. I still have to be a good wife. And she's like, I hold on to that necklace and I look in the mirror and I was like, oh my gosh, like, and it took me on another path of that's where I really started, you know, digging deeper on, okay, what is my purpose, right? And then realizing I am impacting all these women, you know, they're looking to me. I get emails all the time, and it's not about the clothes. They're like, they're looking up to me, right? They're inspired. They're feeling beautiful again. They feel human again. Yeah. And I went, you know what? I can't go all in on this. It's not about the clothes. It never was, right? Yeah. And he, at the time, and just recently, actually this year, finally sold, you know, our ad agency. Yep. And we had, you know, billboards, all that kind of stuff in a building. And we've decided we're going all in together with helping people with their business, similar to you, with marketing and sales and our expertise. Because I remember that moment. And I also remember meeting other families who are entrepreneurs who are now losing their businesses because they had to be here with their sick kid. Yeah. I'm like, if I could help people like that, because when life happens, you shouldn't have to lose everything you've worked for, because we have a skill that we can help them with. Yeah. So I totally can resonate with that story. And it's so funny. Like, it was unexpected. It wasn't on purpose. And it was like, I can't sleep at night knowing that I'm able to do this. Yeah. Or I should be doing something more, you know?
Yeah. And especially, you know, sometimes people, I've trained some people, and they get this question, which is, well, if we all get to know so much about business, what's going to be like, at some point, this is going to be saturated. And, you know, you sharing your story right now, that's the reason why it's never going to be saturated, because you have this experience. Like, I've never been in that situation. They will face some problems and struggles, and you will be able to anticipate them, most of them. Whether, if it's me, I'm never going to think about this, the side problems that they're probably going to have a huge impact in the business, because I didn't have the same experience. Right. So it's such great to know that multiple people who help with business can help in different ways. That's amazing.
And that's where we also did the shift, where we're going from, you know, saying yes to everybody and taking every client, to really, like, I want to go deep with people. I want to help them change their business, their lives, their mindset, you know, because we know how it all goes together. When there's something stressful or hard in your life, like, I mean, the relationship falls apart too sometimes, right? Especially if one's an entrepreneur and the other one isn't. So there's so much dynamic that is just so much more, like, we're so much more passionate about than just the transaction, you know? Yeah. So I know you know that. I can get that from you. For sure. So we could talk forever, honestly. I can tell that already. And we'll have many more conversations. Yes. But my 5-year-old is still playing video games, and we need to feed him or something.
I bribed him. He's
needing a partner right now. He's needing a partner, right?
No, he's probably so happy.
He'll come in with the controller and, like, wave it and look at me like,
Where have you been?
Who are you talking to now on that machine? Yeah.
So I just want to know from you, if our viewers or listeners want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so just, Facebook, Instagram, the name is the same. Just Renato Raposo Fire. Write it all together. You're going to get to me. Or you can go to www.renatoraposo.com.
Okay, awesome.
That's
and we'll
easy.
share that link as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here with us.
You, guys.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.